Shalom, all praises to Yahweh, Ba'ashem, Yahushai, Ba'ashem, HaRakah, Kodash. Double orders unto the apostles and elders of great millstone who rule well. And shalom to the hopeful elect. It's Payal of the GMS London camp. And this is a rebuttal video, rebuke, a reproof, but more rebuke towards Vocab Malone, who recently did a video talking about the elect is not talking about the nation of Israel, right? And basically said it's talking about everyone, which is total BS, all right? There's multiple reasons, there's multiple things he said, all right? The first thing he said, why is Joseph there instead of Ephraim? And the simple answer is all you got to do is go and read Numbers 1 and 32. And there's also another precept, I can't remember off the top of my dome, in Ezekiel as well. But they speak of Ephraim basically being interchangeable with the tribe of with the name Joseph, basically, all right? And then even he said Levi is there. And the easy answer, the reason why Levi is there is because when the Lord offered himself up as a sacrifice, the office of priesthood basically was nullified. There was no real true need of it, all right? Not to say that now we're not, basically, yeah, sacrifice is done away with, simple and plain as that. So Levi, the reason why they weren't acknowledged as a camp is because, Salakia, they weren't acknowledged as a tribe was down to the fact that they were joined onto the Heavenly Father, all right? But now now that they don't have the priesthood to join them onto the Heavenly Father, the law, all right? Basically, they've become a tribe, okay? As like the other tribes. And Dan was taken out, basically, all right? Removed from the tribes and breeded out. Just like Benjamin could have been at one point, all right? So, okay, so it's how I'm going to attack it. I'm going to really start off with Revelation 7, and I'm going to build upon the points and come back on it. All right, so first I'm going to read this. So this is Revelations. Lord willing, you be edified. So I'm going to delve into it. So this is Revelations 7 and 4. All right, so it reads, and I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel, right? And you know, when you look up the word children, it's particularly in the Hebrew, all right, what you find there is sons, the word bun, or as the so-called Jews say, ben, which means son. Okay, so it's talking to the sons of Israel, that are the elect, all right? So now, if it's saying these were the tribes that were sealed of the children of Israel, what we'd have to understand that what would make you a child of Israel, all right? Numbers 1 and 18 plainly tells you that when the tribes came together in their encampments, that they numbered themselves according to the pedigree of their fathers, basically, all right? So they organized, they stood in accordance with the lineage that they descended from, all right? Which let me actually read that. I'm gonna do a lot of I'm gonna read this one, but I'm gonna do a lot of paraphrasing verses for the sake of time, and you can look them up, all right? So it's Numbers 1 and 18, and they assembled all the congregation together on the first day of the second month, and they declared their pedigrees after their families by the house of their fathers. So they declared their pedigrees, which the word pedigree basically means foot of genealogy, their descendants after their families, all right? So that's what happened. So that shows you that what would make you a child of Israel is if you descended through your father's line from the man known as Israel, all right? And it tells you that in Exodus, the first chapter and the 5th verse, that basically there were 70 souls that came out of the loins of Jacob, all right? that went into Egypt. So that shows you that where did all the Israelites come from? Going back to when they were a clan of 70, they came out the loins of Jacob, who was known as Israel. Okay, so let me read this again. Revelation 7:4. And I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. Okay, so now today, what you have is, according to prophecy, the Most High work to work, which, as it tells you in Habakkuk 2:5, or 1:5, sorry, that, some wouldn't believe. And that was basically the scattering of the children of Israel, as it tells you in Hosea 8:8, that Israel was swallowed up. They are as a vessel of dishonor among the heathen, all right? And that's in line with the prophecy of Deuteronomy 28, all right? Because it tells you that would be scattered. Deuteronomy 28 and 64 basically tells you that's one of the curses. But that even now, when you apply understanding, right? Romans 8 and 16 also tells you that the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are the children of the Most High. Okay, so the Spirit is the Word. John 6 and 63 tells you that as well. Right, so when you go to John 63, it tells you that the Spirit, the words that the Lord speaks, their spirit and their life, and the flesh profit, and they quickeneth, and the flesh profiteth nothing. So basically, these words in this book are what prove that we are the children of Israel. All right, Amos 3:1, the Lord said, I will you only have I known of all the families of the earth, all right? Which I'm actually going to read, because that shows you, that goes into the point, all right? Therefore will I punish you for all your iniquities, all right? So let's read this, Amos 3:1. So it says, hear this word that the Lord Yahweh have spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family which I brought up out of the land of Egypt, saying, you only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. All right. So we'll punish in accordance. And it tells you in the book of Deuteronomy 28 that if we broke the laws, all right, that these curses will pursue us. And in the verse 46, it tells you that they shall be on us as a sign and a wonder. So the key word being a sign, okay? So those curses being upon us basically show that we are the Israelites, right? So who are the children of Israel? The so-called Negroes, Hispanics, and Native Americans. Why are they the children of Israel? Because they fulfill the prophecies that would be upon them in terms of being punished for their iniquities. We went into slavery, all right? We've been scattered amongst the heathen. Where the last hired first fired. Where we catch the bad end of the stick. And why is that? Because we're under the curses in the book of Deuteronomy 28 and 15 on down to verse 68, all right? Well, verse 16 down to 68. So now, we progress forward to build upon another point. So this is Matthew 24 and 14. It reads, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. All right? So vocab, I've got a bone to pick with you. Christianity, how long has it been around for? Hundreds and hundreds of years. And guess what? The elect, it's gone throughout the whole course of the earth. Mind you, it was pushed during the time of the not even imperialism. Well, you could say colonialism, imperialism. That was the main, came with the sword in the right hand and the Bible in the left hand, all right? And basically saying that everyone needs to bow down and worship Jesus Christ. So that gospel's been preached all over the earth, but guess what? The end ain't come yet, all right? So because that's in alignment with what Paul said in the book of Corinthians that the prophets would be sent last, all right, after all these falsehoods. So that shows you what you're preaching is false. It's a lie. It's a fallacy, all right, because it tells you that this is the biggest religion on the earth, all right, but the Lord is dealing with a little sanctuary, as it tells you in the book of Ezekiel 11 and 16, all right. But what it is, the Lord ain't looking for anyone. He's looking for specific men, all right. So let's read that. And these men already, it only makes sense that they're men of what nation? Israel. Okay, the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, plus those that have been scattered all over the earth, and they may not look like what they looked like back in the nation of Israel, all right? Because we've been mingled among all people. So this is Ezekiel 9 and 4, all right? So it reads, and the Lord said unto him, go through the midst of the city, through the midst of Jerusalem, and set a mark upon the foreheads of the men that sigh and that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. And to the others he said in mine hearing, go ye after him through the city and smite, all right, and let not your eyes spare, neither have ye pity, right? But that's not the point. The point is here. It says, set a mark upon the foreheads of the men of the nation of Israel, of course, because we're going through the midst of Jerusalem, the people before a place, all right? And that's why it tells you in the book of Revelations 21 and 2 that John saw Jerusalem coming down from heaven, all right? It tells you, all you got to do is go to the Apocrypha, and it tells you how the people are named. I believe it's 3 and 48, second Ezra, or it may be another scripture, excuse me. But basically, what the people and the place is named for the people's sake, all right? Anyway, this is the point. So it says, and set a mark upon the foreheads of all the men that sign that cry for all the abominations that be done in the midst thereof. So that's why the end ain't come, all right? But we're knocking on the door of it. That's why you talking about something like this is the most retarded thing. You don't delve into with all the things that are happening in the world right now. You ain't talking about coronavirus. You ain't talking about the wars popping off. You ain't talking about YouTube shutting down or censorship with the internet. Nothing to do with Donald Trump, Biden. Nothing of any relevance going on in the news. And putting it into context alongside the scriptures with the prophecies of the Bible. You ain't doing that. What you're doing is you're doing silly little debates and just being very and being very not patronizing. Just silly with this truth with what your approach to this. All right, I can't even say you're being naive, because you know what you're doing. All right, so let me go back to Matthew 24. This is Matthew 24 and 14. It says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. All right, so that's gonna be for the elect. All right, and let me even prove that. All right, because the elect are the children of Israel. There ain't no one else gonna be part of that elect. All right, so this is Luke 18 and 7 and 8. It says, and shall not Yahweh avenge his own elect, which cry day and night? What did Ezekiel say? Go through the midst of the city and set a mark upon them that sign that cry for the abomination to be done in the midst thereof. Right? Because the elect are the ones that cry day and night. All right? And we're crying day and night when we're doing these videos and uploading them on the web. All right? So it says, unto him, though he bear long with them. All right? I tell you that he will avenge them speedily. Nevertheless, when the Son of Man cometh, shall he find faith on the earth. All right? Because it's only, and that even shows you that the fact that Christianity is being preached all over the earth, that faith is going to be in a small number. All right? It's going to be found amongst a chosen few. So let me read Matthew 24 and 14. Oh, damn. Okay, so it says, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and then shall the end come. All right. So, as you know, that it's going to be preached, and it's going to be for the elect of the nation of Israel. Right. One last point as well. Jump down to verse 30. Right. Or 29. Sorry. Oh wait, no, 31 and 30. So it reads it. And then shall appear a sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn. Okay? So you vocab, you talking about all the people on earth are gonna be part of that. So why are all the tribes of the earth gonna mourn? That doesn't make sense, alright? The only way it can make sense is if the elect of the children of Israel get chosen and the rest of the people get left. Right? That's why he said, shall he find faith on the earth? Because it's only going to be that little sanctuary of the men that sigh and that cry for the abominations day and night. All right. And they shall see the Son of Man coming with in clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet. All right, that last trump. And they shall gather together his elect from the four winds. All right. So this is going into what I'm going to read. I'm going to circle back now in Revelation to the 7th chapter. See, it's showing you that this destruction that's being held back is going to be let go on all the earth, all right? But the only people that are going to escape it is the elect that are chosen, all right? So it says, and he will send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other, all right? And that's why it tells you in the book of Isaiah 45 and 17, which Paul quoted in the book of Romans, that Israel shall be saved with an everlasting salvation, world without end. All right, loosely paraphrasing, because Israel are the elect of the Heavenly Father. Okay, there's no way you can get around it, vocab. There's no two ways about it. So this is Revelations. So I'm going to start from 1. It says Revelation 7 and 1. And after these things I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. Those winds represent the destruction, right? World War III and all hell breaking loose, basically, right? But more so the destruction. So it says, and I saw another angel ascending from the east, having a seal of the living power, and he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea, nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our power, Yahweh, in their foreheads. Right? So that's once they're sealed with the knowledge, that's when the winds are going to be let go. The angels are going to let go of that destructive wind. So verse 4 says, and I heard the number of them which were sealed, and there were sealed 144,000 of all the tribes of the children of Israel. The children, mind you. So it says of the tribe of Judah was sealed 12,000, right? So the so-called Negroes. Of the tribe of Reuben was sealed 12,000, the so-called Seminole Indians. Of the tribe of Gad was sealed 12,000, the so-called Native Americans. Of the tribe of Asher was sealed 12,000, the so-called Brazilians over to Peru. Of the tribe of Naphtali was sealed 12,000, I believe. I know the Argentinians towards the south, amongst the other nations down there. Of the tribe of Manasseh was sealed 12,000. So-called Cubans of the tribe of Simeon was sealed 12,000. Those of the so-called Dominicans of the tribe of Levi was sealed 12,000. So-called Haitians of the tribe of Issachar was sealed 12,000. The so-called Mexicans of the tribe of Zebulun was sealed 12,000. The so-called That's basically Central America, all right? From, uh, is it Guatemala? I believe it's Guatemala down to Honduras, but basically Central America, right? Of the tribe of Joseph was sold 12,000. That's the so-called Puerto Ricans. Of the tribe of Benjamin was sold 12,000. So-called West Indians, all right? So it says, after these I beheld, and lo, now this is where vocab tries to creep up in the mix. It says, after this I beheld, and lo, a great multitude, which no man could number, of all nations and kindreds and people and tongues, stood before the throne and before the Lamb, clothed with white robes and palms in their hands. So this is talking about another multitude, which is talking about the 1/3 of the nation of Israel, because 1/3 is basically the elect. But within the 1/3, you have the 144,000. But outside of the 144,000, you have their families, their women, and then even people that have helped in the faith and whatnot. They're gonna, that's a whole different selection of people. But guess what? They all belong to the tribes of Israel, all right? They all belong to them as well. There's no two ways about that. Because look, what you got to do to break this down is go to Revelations 5 and 9. And it says, and they sung a new song, saying, thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain and hast redeemed us. Redeemed, all right? What does the word redeem mean? It means to buy back, all right? So if you're buying something back, that means you sold it away, all right? It's like going to pawn something in a pawn shop, selling it to them and say that, please, I just need this money for a moment, but I'm going to come back and buy that possession off of you. And they may give you a term of a time span in which you can go and regain that item. And then you go within that time span and you buy back what you sold, all right? So that's what it means. So in that case, who was bought in the first place? The children of Israel, okay? They were bought under the covenant in Exodus 24. As it tells you, Moses sprinkled the blood of the covenant on the children of Israel. Okay, so it says, and has redeemed us to Yahweh by thy blood, all right? So this time we were redeemed by his blood, by him making a sacrifice out of every kindred, all right? Why? Because I mentioned before Hosea 8 and 8, that was scattered among the heathen and were a vessel of dishonor, and tongue, because when you're scattered, you're going to be speaking different languages. Acts the 2nd chapter, and if just read that, and people and nation, all right, and has made us unto our power kings and priests. Now, if you've read the Bible before, you'll know that this is talking about Exodus the 19th chapter, where it tells you that us following the covenant would enable us to be kings and priests. So if who can come under the new covenant? Only those that are under the first covenant, being the children of Israel, because the second covenant is in place, because the first one, we had a stony heart, but then the second one's going to give us a heart of flesh, right? So that we adhere unto the law, statutes, and commandments. If you wasn't under the first one, meaning you're not an Israelite, you can't be under the second. So verse 10, it says, and has made us unto our power kings and priests, and we shall reign on earth, all right? So that's the video. I pray you were edified. Until the next one, I say shalom.